Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Welcome to this edition of Sports Corner PH Interviews. I'm Gab Peras from Sports Corner PH. At kasama po natin, we are so happy to welcome our friend from the Philippine Cricket Association to discuss the latest developments of the cricket scene here in this country, especially the men's national team who was recently competed in the T20 qualifiers. And we're joined by PCA Development Manager and is it correct? You're the coach of the women's team?
Yeah, I also coach the women's national team. Yeah.
Okay, so we have with us Coach Travis Mccall. Good morning and thank you for joining us for this the conversations.
Thank you so much for having us, Gab, and thanks for everyone for watching.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. Again, we will like to apologize to Mr. Faisal Khan, the team manager of the national team, because of his prior commitments. He has to beg off, and he was forwarded the invitation to you to be our guest for this morning. So let's kick off with this question. How's the Philippine cricket today during the time of the pandemic, and of course with some restrictions lifted and person training allowed because we are now entering the new normal? We are downgraded to alert level 1 in some key areas in the country.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the pandemic's been a challenging time, not just for cricket, but for the country as a whole. So to put that in perspective, it's one of those things you can't control. So we've done the best we can during the lockdowns and the different levels of restrictions to shore up our back end, so to make sure that our structure is as good as we can have it. We've done some coaching type modules with some of our younger Filipino players, all sorts of things like that, and all our players have continued to do their trainings on an individual basis. Now with the restrictions lowering, which is great signs for everyone in the country, it's also good signs for cricket, and it's very likely that leagues and proper training sessions will start to resume very shortly, which is something we're all looking forward to.
Can you tell us more about PCA? How did it introduce in the country, the sport of cricket? What is the reason why cricket is getting popular here in the Philippines? It is because of some foreign expats who are interested to play here in the country, because cricket is usually played in India, in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, and in other Middle East countries, Oman, Nepal, and United Arab Emirates, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, so the PCA was started in the early 2000s with the vision of making cricket accessible for Filipinos, and also developing the sport within the Philippines. So cricket's actually been played in the Philippines since 1918, so 1918. Which is quite a long time, but yeah, generally before it was very much a small pocket of players. So the idea was, we've got this amazing sport, and it's an amazing country. Why don't we combine the two and try and do something that allows Filipinos to really reach their potential within our sport as well? So yeah, it's a very popular sport across Asia. It's actually the second largest sport globally by fan base. So soccer has about 4 billion fans. Cricket's the only other one with above 2 billion, with about 2.5 billion fans. So especially in Asia, it's a massive sport. So being able to promote it here and to grow it here is obviously a challenge. It's making people aware of it, giving them the opportunity to play. But also it can be a big benefit for the country with so many eyes on the sport if the Philippines do well. So it's a great platform for our country to show what it can do on a global stage.
Wow, that is 100 years since the introduction of cricket in the country as a recreational sport. And just recently, we have the national teams formed. So before the pandemic, you have organized several local leagues and even hosted international meets where we hosted in the country. And now the Philippine men's and women's team program formally started.
Yeah, so once PCA started, one of the visions of PCA was, well, to give the sport more of a platform, and also to provide the players that come through our leagues, etc., the opportunity to take their cricket further and to test themselves at the highest level. You have to have a national team. So in 2011 was the first year that a men's national team was formed. They competed at like the regional level. It was Division 2 at the time in the region. And slowly that's progressed to the level now where we were just one step away from the World Cup proper, just last month. And also with our women's, 2017, there was discussions there that, look, cricket's a sport that's for everybody. It's a sport that's welcoming of all different cultures, races, religions. People are all welcome in cricket. So from there, the plans were, okay, well, we've got a women's base of players now. We've got a good small domestic league that's starting to grow. How do we provide opportunities for our female players? So from 2017 onwards, we scouted our players, we planned, we started running some coaching sessions for some of the more elite players. And in 2019, they had their first international series also, which was very special because it was actually hosted within the Philippines, which was really great to see a team full of all Filipino players get to play in front of a home crowd.
Speaking of the women's team that we have formed in 2018, we are we have an all-female team competed in T20 tournaments, which is composed of professional and amateur standouts, including those who have competed in local leagues in Hong Kong, where the majority of the team are part of the SEC Divas Hong Kong team, who are also Filipina domestic helpers by day, and then they get to play cricket at night or usually free time.
Yeah, so the players that are based in Hong Kong, they're all natural born Filipinos from that are OFWs in Hong Kong. They have a kind of a pretty heavy work schedule with their jobs generally. So Monday through Saturday is pretty much working. So Sunday is their day off every week. And they generally spend that training or playing. And then a lot of the players additionally, if they have a little bit of time in the evening, we'll do some training within their houses as well. So for them, they're a group of females and Filipinos that inspire me personally. There's some brilliant cricketers there, but also some really great mothers and women, and especially in International Women's Month. It's, to acknowledge not just those players in Hong Kong, but the other kind of half of the team that are based here as well, and all our domestically based players. Like they give me personally and the PCA as a whole the drive to keep moving forward and to keep trying to progress the sport. Because if you look at our opposition in that debut series, Indonesia, they're actually ranked number 20 in the world in women's cricket. And in our other neighbors in Thailand are actually number 11 in the world. So there's no ceiling to where Southeast Asian females can reach when it comes to cricket. And that's something we'd like to build over time. And the players in Hong Kong are a big part of that as well.
And we have some clarification questions. Is cricket included in the SEA Games or the Asian Games? Or if not, are you appealing to add this sport? But it depends on the countries who are likely participating too. And second, is PCA recognized by our sports governing bodies like the Philippine Sports Commission and the Philippine Olympic Committee?
Yeah, so the Philippines is a cricket association, is a member of the Philippine Olympic Committee. And yeah, cricket has been in the SEA Games in 2017 in Malaysia. It was a medal sport in the SEA Games. It's not currently on the program for this upcoming SEA Games, but it is a medal sport in the Asian Games. And yeah, it's quite a big sport when it comes to Asian Games as well. So I mean, that's something that as an organization we'd love to be involved in the Asian Games, but that's down to the Olympic Committee etc., to decide whether to submit us into that. So.
Thank you for your answers to these clarifications. Now let's take a look now at our T20 World Cup qualifiers, where we have our national team made up by Indian expats and Australian amateur standouts who are vying for a slot in the World Cup. The last match was in 2019, but the succeeding matches were postponed because of this pandemic. Can you take us through the overview of the tournament you have joined last month? Who are the part of the team? And how's the training and the preparations there in Oman, considering they are they are training for the very first time face to face?
Yeah, so I mean, to get to that level is almost a fairy tale in itself for a country like the Philippines. For where our stature in cricket, it's a huge achievement. So how cricket works with the World Cup is you have the World Cup itself, and then the global qualifiers, which is what we've just played in. But to get there, beneath that, we had to win a sub-regional event with the rest of East Asia, including the likes of Japan, Korea, and Indonesia, who all have really strong teams as well. And then from there, we had to qualify through the regional qualifiers, which included teams like Papua New Guinea and Vanuatu. So some really strong opposition even to get to that level. And then the pandemic itself, obviously, it pushed back the latest round of regional qualifiers. But our previous results and our standing was what got us through as the highest ranked team from our region. So it's been very challenging having players having to train remotely and not really be able to catch up and build those bonds as closely as you would having a group all train together. But despite that, the effort and the commitment of all our players has been something that's really remarkable and something that I think shows in the way they play their cricket as well. That there's different cultures that are mixed into a side, but you know, like the resident players that we have here, most of them have lived here 10, 15 plus years, and then Filipinos that are from other living in other countries at the moment as well. It's a great way for them to connect with their culture. So for the entire training leading up to the tournament and for the tournament itself, the mantra of the team was Kapwa. So they were very strong about not just competing on the field, not just being in their best shape, in their best form, you know, having the best technique they can, those types of things, but also exploring what it means to be a Filipino, what it means to represent the culture, and that kind of Kapwa spirit of like, we exist because we exist together. It's I live in you, you live in me, and we're one big community. And I think you saw that through the pandemic, you know, people setting up community kitchens and all those things. There's some amazing things that are not sports related that can bond a team together. And so despite being apart and despite players having to diligently train individually, they prepared as best they could and found other ways to connect, not just with each other, but to deepen their bond with the Philippine culture as a whole, which was really special.
That's what we call the Bayanihan spirit in sports. And there was a fundraising efforts to raise up the expenses for the campaign itself, right?
Yeah, so one of the players started a donation drive to help assist with the costs. Our funding is mostly from the International Cricket Council, which is the international body for the sport, Parang, FIFA, FIBA, etc. And then also a lot of it's self-funding from PCA. So yeah, there was a great response to that. We raised a reasonable amount of money, which helped with some of the expenses that are incurred by taking such a journey, especially in a time where travel's restricted and flights are expensive, etc.
And especially very appreciating the support of the president of the PCA, which is Dr. Jose Campos, who also runs Emilio Aguinaldo College. For the longest time, their grounds became the training ground or home of the Philippine cricket team.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Campos and Emilio Aguinaldo College, Cavite, their entire organization and staff have been fantastic partners for our sport. They're very passionate about exposing Filipinos to new ideas, to new opportunities, and to have a field like that, which is actually our national ground, has been such a blessing. It's actually International Cricket Council accredited, which means that we can hold our own international series and international fixtures at an official level, which is something that's very special. And both our men's and our women's team now have had home tours. So gone are the days where to play international cricket, Philippines has to actually travel overseas. But now we can also invite other nations to our doorstep and to provide them with that Filipino hospitality here, and to give them a view of what the culture is like here, which is really cool.
Okay, let's go to our results. You have competed against Canada, Nepal, and Oman in the preliminaries of the T20 World Cup qualifiers. But unfortunately, we have lost all the matches, even the semifinals against the Bahrain and the seventh place battle against Germany. We have defeated by them. Could you assess or summarize those performances by our national team? And what are the lessons that we have learned or imply in the succeeding competitions to come, as per the assessment of you and the other coaches of the Philippine men's cricket team?
Yeah, so I mean the results were tough. We're playing against top quality opposition, teams that are ranked between 12th in the world and low 30s. As a team ranked 46th, to play at that level is pretty hard task. But the boys performed as well as they could. They gave a really good effort. There was a lot of comments actually from opposing coaches and management of other teams, saying how impressed they were with how our boys played, considering that pretty much all those teams weren't locked down at all. So they've had 2 years to prepare for this, where we've had a really shortened time where we can actually physically properly prepare. So in spite of that, and the fact that a lot of those sides are fully professional, and the rest of them are kind of semi-professional. So for an amateur side to go toe to toe with professional athletes, I think our boys did reasonably well. There's encouraging signs for the future there. There's a lot of lessons that we've learned. I would say at that level, the consistency and the pace of the game, the way that the speed that it's played at, are two things that probably were eye-openers for some of our players. But also coming back to the next tournament will be a sub-regional qualifier. That preparation and then playing against teams that are a lot lower ranked than that should hold them in good stead to say, hey, we're not scared of this. We're not, our players played without fear. So I think if they continue to play without fear, and they take that experience on board, I think it'll bode well for the future of our Carabao side, our men's national team. And I think it's something that we'll aspire to reach again in the near future.
If I may add, is the recent victories of our other sports heroines, our sports heroes like Idilyn Diaz, serves an inspiration to boost the national team program?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's, especially in COVID times, a lot of things are done via group chats or Zoom meetings or Facebook Messenger, etc. And seeing the results at the Olympics, not just Heidel and Diaz, but like Philippines bagged a fair few medals, probably their most successful Olympic run ever. On top of that, seeing like the women's national football team qualify for the World Cup, things like that as well. they all serve as inspiration, and it's something that our boys and our girls also want to achieve in the future. But success is a long road. It doesn't come overnight, and it doesn't come without a lot of hard work and sacrifice. So when you look at that, you see, wow, this is where we can be. But there's a lot of hard work to get there. And that's the kind of enjoyable part of the journey is, okay, as long as we're improving, as long as we keep getting better, as long as we keep getting stronger as a group, as individuals, there's no reason that somewhere in the future we can't emulate some of those amazing sports stories that have come out in the last year to 2 years from the Philippines.
So after this eighth place finish in the World Cup qualifiers, what are the future plans, not just for the men's team, but also the women's team to go into greater heights in the next international competitions? Will you have plans to resume training locally or send it into a training camp, and any competitions that we are intended to join in the coming years?
Yeah, so we don't have the exact confirmation of which nations will be playing in them and exact dates, but it looks likely that towards the end of this year, both our men's and our women's teams will be playing international series. So our women's team, it'll be a bi or trilateral series, which is arranged between nations. Our men's team will have an official ICC qualifier, and then the next year it'll be flipped over. So in the coming year, in 2023, the women's team will get to make their debut in a World Cup qualifier, which was unfortunately postponed in 2020. So yeah, there's definitely things on the horizon for our national teams, but also, yes, we're looking to resume our training schedules and also some league fixtures and tournaments and competitions in the very near future to not just get our players ready, but national teams are only one part of what any sports association should be doing. And so to get back to that grassroots level of cricket and young Filipino players, and then some older people that have played cricket for a long time that play socially, and then also the more competitive end of cricket, to have that all back running again will be brilliant. And yeah, I'd say stay tuned to Philippine Cricket Association Facebook page, as there should be further announcements there shortly of upcoming plans as well.
So apart from the national team program, I heard we have resumed some local leagues, especially last month and even in December last year. Are we expect more local leagues to be held in the coming months?
Yeah, certainly. That's the plan, is within the next few months to be back at it. Obviously, it depends on the alert levels and what is and isn't allowed. We want to make sure that anything we do falls within the scope of what we're allowed to do. But yes, certainly that's the plan, is to get some leagues back running.
How about the plans to have a permanent sponsors to help sustain the programs of the PCA, the grassroots development programs, and to have a more cricket facilities across the country? Because unfortunately, we only have one facility, and that is located at Las Marinas, which is the EC grounds.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we're always exploring what potential partnerships can be brought about, whether that's private partnerships or public partnerships. If there's some government support that is there that we can access, that would be fantastic. If there's some private companies that want to come on board, we'd love to partner with them also. I think too, if we're able to expand that, if we're able to get a few more grounds and to spread cricket out, which is the goal longer term, to see cricket in all different parts of the Philippines. Not only will it provide thousands upon thousands of youth a fantastic opportunity, not just with sport, but also the character development that cricket naturally has, but also will strengthen our national teams longer term as well, and provide us a better platform and a better opportunity to compete at the highest levels.
And also, don't forget the bands for cricket will be getting higher because of our national team competed in international competitions. That is important.
Absolutely.
And last question before we end, any message or word of advice to the young generation of players, to those who wanted to try out the sport of cricket?
Yeah. Look, cricket is, it might sound confusing or it might look different, but it's a very welcoming sport. Anybody is welcome. Doesn't matter your age, your ability, your gender, any of those things. They're immaterial. Cricket's a community. It's kind of like a family. So anybody that's interested, please get in touch via our Philippine Cricket Association Facebook page. We'd be more than happy to assist. And also just like to shout out our Filipino cricket community, both within the Philippines, and also some of the OFWs in Oman who were absolutely brilliant with their support with our men's team that just happened. To see Filipinos both home and abroad supporting the team, sending so many encouraging messages. I know that definitely got through to the players, and it's something that's very special. So thank you very much to everybody who's supporting us on this journey, and to anybody who would like to join us, please send us a message on our Facebook page, and look, we'd be delighted to hear from you and see what we can do to keep growing cricket and to give you that opportunity to participate with us.
Thank you so much for guesting us, Coach Travis. Certainly, this will help improve and boost the media mileage of Philippine cricket in the country with this interview. Maybe you can invite all to visit the social media accounts you mentioned and thank them for the support that you have given to the Philippine Cricket Association and its programs.
Yeah, so we have our Facebook page, which is Philippine Cricket Association. If you search it on that, you'll find us. Also, we have a website, cricketphilippines.com, which has some of the basic information on there also. We have a YouTube channel, which is Philippine Cricket TV. So through all of those, our sponsors, everything like that, the links and logos and that of all those things are there as well. So easiest way to find us is one of those 3 channels. And also just like to thank you, Gab, so much for this opportunity, and for all the work you're doing with sport, and exposing very different varieties of sport and giving them a platform. So really appreciate that. And yeah.
And looking forward to have you again and Mr. Faisal to other shows and programs, especially here in Sports on Air and Sports Corner PH, to discuss the latest updates on cricket and PCA and the programs that are going to implement and to be held someday or soon. So good luck to the Philippine cricket team. Stay safe. Thank you and God bless. Bye po.
Thank you so much.